Hello and welcome to the Full 10 Yards Betting Podcast. It is week 12 of the NFL season. That means it's Thanksgiving week. So we've got three game previews for you on the Thursday night, and we're going to go through the rest of the games for the weekend in a nice early Wednesday podcast. I'm joined tonight by Liam at underscore Liam on Liam Horsley on Twitter, and at Callum. JD Squires is Callum. Joining us from the States. He's obviously got a pretty busy day tomorrow, a lot busier than we have over here, but um, I'm off work, so I'll be watching, well, a busy day of World Cup from 10 a.m. and then World Cup and NFL in the evening. So it's a dream day, really. I really can't complain. Liam, how are you doing? You got any plans for tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow is my 30th birthday. So my plans are to watch sport, bet on sport, and enjoy some nice food in the evening. So, it should be good. So far, I've been trying to do £10 on every World Cup game, and I had to give up today because there's been too many nil-nils. So there's just not enough props out there for me because I'm not enjoying these nil-nils. So I'm giving that up, but I'm going to bet on some NFL action tomorrow. I'm hoping for a Bills kind of Lions crazy game that just makes no sense, and it's like 43-40 to someone. That's what I want to happen. So we'll see.
Happy birthday to you. Hopefully
Thank
be a
you.
good one. The total on that one has ticked up, I think, from 50.5 earlier in the week. It's now 54.5. So
That's
fingers
just
crossed, it
me
should
betting
be.
it.
You've just been putting your £10 over there instead. Well, you're going to
Yeah,
get a
mate.
load of birthday money tomorrow, I'm sure. So, it's all good. Callum, as you were saying earlier, you've got a busy evening today and obviously a busy one tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean it's always funny because people here always ask me about what do they do in the UK with Thanksgiving? I was just like, yeah, it's called Thursday. So it doesn't really translate obviously, but it's nice to be here. It's good to be able to kind of enjoy the games during the waking hours as opposed to having to stay up and risk missing work on Friday. Though I think we'll get into it, but the night game is not necessarily the most exciting of the three. But yeah, looking forward to it. I mean, it's weird because it's just like Christmas presents, so you still just get good food and there's sport on TV. So I'm happy regardless. I mean, it's a great day to be here.
Always confused me when they're listening to the Damashek podcast and he says that they only have like mashed potato and gravies twice a year, and it's just that's a weekly thing over here. It boggles my mind that that's a special thing for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
They eat some weird things.
Okay, so
They do.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's get on to the Thanksgiving games then. I can't say that. We start off with the Bills minus 9.5 out of Detroit Lions with a total of 54.5. The Bills obviously played in Detroit this week, but then randomly went back home and then came back out to Detroit, which seems like it wouldn't have been as beneficial as just staying there, but I guess plans changed quite quick. The Bills obviously coming off a comeback win last week. It was closer than I think a lot of people thought it was going to be, but they eked out the win and got back on track. Josh Allen, I don't believe he ended up on the injury report last week, so that's probably good news with his elbow injury. It doesn't seem to have affected him too much, although he was throwing a couple of interceptions in games previous, but last week he was clean. Um, it's Diggs, Davis, and Knox really. It's the three that it's been all year. They've got the running game going a little bit. Devin Singletary's done a little more in recent weeks. But yeah, I obviously I've got the Bills in multiple times to win the big thing, win the whole thing. So I do think they're obviously going to win this one. It's a tough spread at minus 9.5. The Lions obviously have not been great, but they are capable of putting up points, which is why it's 54.5. They activated Jameson Williams this week. I don't think he's going to make it for tomorrow, but he's back practicing. He was their draft pick in I think it was first round this year. He was one of their draft picks. Um, but they've been putting up points without him. They've done quite well. Jamal Williams gets a lot of the goal line work. DeAndre Swift, not really sure what's going on with him. He's not getting a whole lot of work in recent weeks, so will be interesting to see how he does in this one. And then obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown is their superstar wide receiver. I think I've covered most of the big names there. Liam, on to you.
Yeah, it's a lot of names there. I've got to put like Brock Wright or someone, the tight end, someone like that maybe. But I think it should be a fun game. I was saying on my podcast earlier, this feels like a game to me that if the Lions score first, it's going to be a great game. But if the Bills score first, then we have a Jared Goff 3 and out, and it's 10-0 after 6 minutes. Then it's like, I'm not sure. But if the Lions score first, I think this could be a really good game. I like the over, to be honest, but it's a high total. But I just root for fun on Thanksgiving, especially because it's the best time for us. 5:30 is ideal. So yeah, I think it will go over. Like you said, Josh Allen. I think he's thrown a couple of ducks, to be honest, as well, with his elbow injury. But overall, it looks probably better than we all thought. So I do think their offense should be okay. It didn't start well last week, but it ended pretty well. So prop wise, I know we're going to go into it, but him to score over 2.5 passing TDs is one that I really liked. So I just think if this game becomes a shootout, then I think the Lions' defense can be pretty bad on that back end. So I do think that they can score some points. So yeah, in terms of spread, I would probably go with the Lions because I want chaos. And as a person who's bet the Chiefs and Eagles to have the best records in the league, I don't want the Bills to keep winning. So I'd probably go with the Lions just for fun. But I think the over is probably a pretty good shout.
Unbelievable that before hell freezes over, Liam takes the Lions handicap. It's incredible. I love it. Fantastic. Great to see. Nearly 30 years old, new man, Dan Campbell believer. I love it. Yeah, I would take the Lions here too. Largely, I agree. I think fun. I think chaos. But again, they don't really get blown out. I mean, aside from they had the Patriots loss, which was kind of an egregious one-sided affair. But beyond that, I really don't think there's been a game where they've been down by more than 2 possessions. I think in terms of, I don't think so. They're a covering machine. They played really well, the last 3 weeks and have, gone on a 3-game winning streak. And I have a friend of mine who's a big Lions fan, and he said, whisper it, but if we win on Thanksgiving, we're right in the playoff hunt.
And 4 games in a row, that would be.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I don't think they're going to win. I think the Bills will win. But I definitely think the Lions will be up for it and be able to play them close. I agree with Liam. I think the over is probably the play, largely out of fun as much as anything else. But yeah, I don't rule the Lions out here. I think they can be scrappy. And the Bills' defense has not looked quite as stifling in the last month as it did for the first 6 weeks. So yeah, why not? Let's hope the Lions keep it close and make it interesting for all of us.
Yeah, I hope so. As I say, I'm off work now. I'm meeting a mate at the pub at 5:30, so we've got that on the little screen, and then the World Cup will be on the big screens, and it's Brazil against someone in the late game. So it's a decent setup for my evening. So yeah, we do have a few props on this one. I wrote down Brock Wright at 7-1 just because I thought it was fairly generous odds for probably their tight end one now. Shane Zylstra was 16-1 if you wanted to go really exotic. The Josh Allen over 2.5 passing touchdowns is 31-20, so I've just done 6-4 on that one at Bet365. I like Gabe Davis over 23.5 for his longest reception. Generally, when he makes catches, they're 20 plus yards down the field, and obviously the Lions' defense is not very good. And then Liam mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown over 7.5 receptions. That's 6-5, and I quite like him for a touchdown at 6-4 as well. Callum, did you have anything prop wise on this?
No, I kind of looked at all the lines and wasn't all the lines of the players receiving yardage totals. I wasn't really convinced by any of them being super easy to understand. But the value on, I just think Jamal Williams is likely to score, potentially getting him to get a brace, considering what he's been doing lately. I think is a decent look.
Yeah, amazingly, Paddy Power has him at 4-1 for 2 touchdowns, which is just terrible. But you can get him and Pollard 2 touchdowns each at 50-1 on Sky Bet, which is one that I will probably have a little nibble on just for the hell of it. It's a bit of fun. But obviously both of them did it this week. Pollard was 9-1 on Sunday. He was one of the ones I had in my Trixie, which he achieved it. The other guys didn't, but yeah, it's decent odds on both of those guys, I think. Next up is Giants plus 9.5 at the Cowboys with a 45.5 total on that one. The Giants are missing 4 offensive linemen for the game, so that could cause some issues. The Vikings missed 1 offensive lineman last week, and they got utterly mauled by Micah Parsons and his mates up front. So it could be a rough day for Daniel Jones and the people up top there. I think this one was about 7 points earlier in the week, so again, it's drifted towards the home team, which is no real surprise. Don't have a whole lot more to say on this one. The Cowboys' offense has looked really good with Dak. He's been able to get them moving more. Tony Pollard obviously has blown up in recent weeks. We do I'll let Liam mention about Zeke and what the possible balance is going to be there. But yeah, CD Lamb has been great. Michael Gallup he's been Michael Gallup. He's the probably second or third option there in the passing game, and obviously Dalton Schultz picked up as well. The Giants are mainly Saquon Barkley, so that's really the only person to talk about on that one. Liam, anything else?
Yeah, I think the running backs, like you mentioned, are going to be important because Tony Pollard still got a lot of touches last week, but that was the first game, obviously, where Zeke looked a bit more healthy. So I'm just concerned, betting wise, on what lines to go with both of those two. I think it might be a bit more split this week. I know you mentioned that Zeke's touchdown line was a bit higher than it would be traditionally. I think was it plus money for Zeke? Was it 13-8? Was that right?
13-10 at William Hill.
13-10, yeah. And you're talking probably a year and a half ago, he's odds on for a touchdown. So I think that's pretty good value. We saw last week that Pollard got stuffed a couple of times and Zeke ran it in from the 1 yard line, just doing what Zeke does. He's very good in short yardage. So I think I would go with that. I'd maybe stay away from other stuff with regards to their rushing totals, but I do think that receiving totals and touchdowns are pretty good. In terms of the game, I just think I would love to say the Giants here just to make it fun, but I just do think the Cowboys are going to win. Like you mentioned, the defensive line are going to eat against that offensive line. I know that Parsons got injured on an extra play that he played at the weekend when he didn't need to play, which didn't make sense to me, but they say they're going to start him. Jerry Jones, the doctor, has come out and said that he promises he'll be healthy. So if Jerry Jones is saying he's going to be healthy, then I'll believe him. But yeah, I just think that potentially they're going to kill Daniel Jones here. So I will be looking at some Saquon Barkley stuff. I think I've got on our props in a minute over 102 rushing and receiving yards combined. But ideally, you need the Giants to stay in the game for the first half for that to come in because he's going to have to run. So we'll see. But yeah, I think the Cowboys will win. Dak looked really, really good at the weekend. So we'll just see if I can get some Saquon props stuck in there and then Cowboys win by maybe 2 touchdowns on top as well, potentially.
There's a lot of groundswell right now in the NFC for obviously the 49ers doing what they're doing and looking as good as they do. But I really think the Cowboys are looking impressive too as well. Everybody likes to like the Cowboys, and that's fair enough. But they do look good. And I think if/when they add Odell Beckham Jr. to this offense, as it kind of feels more and more inevitable by the day, I just think they are poised to make some noise late on here. I don't think it's impossible for them to leap the Eagles and win. I still think that's in play. You would obviously need the Eagles to lose a game they shouldn't lose, but it's not outside the realms of possibilities. So yeah, I like the Cowboys here for sure. 9.5 is high, but the Giants just didn't look good on offense against the Lions, and the Lions' defense is significantly less impressive than the Cowboys. So Thanksgiving, take the over and enjoy it, but you might find a situation where the Cowboys just lock them down. I mean, the best thing that could happen for this game would be the Giants to take the ball and score a touchdown on the opening drive. That would be the absolute best way to start. And then, Dak has to throw it a bit. So we'll see. But yeah, I do like the Cowboys, and I do think they're the favourites and the obvious choice in this game.
Yeah, the Cowboys have scored at least 24 points in every game since Dak returned. Obviously, the 4 games that he's been back. And of course, their defense locked down the fraudulent Vikings last week. Kept them to just 3 points as they dominated that game. So props for this one. I know that Callum has one which we'll mention in a minute. I do like Dalton Schultz 12-5 to score a touchdown, and pivoting off of Liam's Saquon bet over 23.5 receiving yards is one I quite like. And then I've gone for receiving yards on the other side of the ball as well. Tony Pollard over 19.5 I thought was quite low given the fact he can break one for that easily. And that was my view on this one. Liam, did you have any more?
No, not really. There wasn't much more to look at. I think if I can get it, I always like to look at Dak's rushing yards as well. But in the UK, we just don't get the same QB rush totals as you do in the States. And Sky Bet didn't have it yesterday. It might be up there today. I haven't checked. But yeah, I would look maybe at a Dak rushing just because he can scramble and get a few yards. So.
Yeah, hard to disagree with any of those. I like all of. Yeah, sorry, I like all the ones that are on the screen. I just also thought I'd throw in Michael Gallup as well. 41.5 receiving yards. I think that line is a little bit low. And have had defensive success at times, and they will key on CD Lamb. So I think it's worth looking at Gallup as well as a potential option.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz over 37.5 receiving yards was the other one we didn't mention, Dak Prescott is up now, 10.5 for his rushing yards. So
I like
um,
that.
not too bad at all, really. I can tell you though, don't think he's rushed that much this year. Yeah, yeah, he's gone over it in 3 of the 5 games that he's had. He normally has just over 3 rushing attempts per game. So if you think, well, we know that the Giants are a fairly decent defense, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes over 11 yards. It's not exactly a high one there. So closing the night, I think 12:30 in the UK, is Patriots plus 2.5 at the Vikings, with a total of 42.5. And I will let Liam deal with this one because it might be something that he likes.
Yeah, this is going to be. We normally do our best bets on the Thursday show, so this is going to be my best bet. Obviously, it's going to be the Vikings minus 2.5. I just think the Patriots are awful. Their defense is good, actually. I was looking yesterday; it's first in DVOA, but if you take the 2 Jets performances out, it's not in the top 10 in DVOA. So any performance against Zach Wilson, who is now being dropped for Mike White, I'm just going to kind of put that to the side and just say the defense is good, but it's not great. And I just think bouncing back from a terrible week, I think the Vikings are going to realize that they can't leave their tackles out on islands against good teams like they did against the Cowboys last week, and maybe they start playing some more tight ends, and kind of help chip block and things like that. So for me, I just think the Patriots aren't good enough on offense. I think Mac Jones has been terrible this season. It wasn't good last week either, to be honest. I think they scored 3 points, was it, or 6 points maybe on offense, and the rest was all obviously on special teams with that play at the end. So for me, I just think the offense isn't good enough, regardless of what you think about the Vikings offense. Justin Jefferson's going to get you enough yards and points, so is Dalvin Cook to score enough in this game. I know it's against Bill Belichick, but I just think field goal is fine. They could easily win on a field goal at the end, and it'll be a tight, awful game, but I'd still win my bet. So yeah, I'm going to go Vikings minus 2.5.
Hard to argue with it. It really is. As much as the Vikings have finally showed their true selves and that they are complete frauds, it is, this game is terrible. I've got no interest in really following much that's going on in this game. Neither offense is interesting, and it's really if anything, I wish this was the early game and we could kind of improve the day as the day goes on. Honestly, I kind of like the under here, and it's a low total, and I don't really feel good about it, but I like under 42.5 because I don't believe in either of these to move the ball down the field. I haven't found a price for it because I just don't know if it's going to be offered. But if you could find some sort of like interception accumulator between Jones and Cousins to throw 3.5 or more, or over 3.5 between them, I don't hate that. I feel like you might get decent odds on that. But yeah, the Patriots would have much offensive output aside from Ramondre Stevenson seems to be the only thing that they've got going for them. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is fantastic, but the Patriots defense is carrying their team. So yeah, I'd have to side on the under. If you make me pick a side, I'll probably take the Vikings, but I can almost guarantee just out of spite on the day, I will put money line in my day after.
Yeah, just been having a quick check. Matt Judon leads the league in sacks with 13 this year, so he will be able to get pressure on Kirk Cousins, and obviously it's a primetime game, which is not the most ideal
Great
spot
point,
for Kirk
Adam.
Cousins.
Great point. Yep.
It's a late
Yep.
primetime game as well, even worse.
Yeah. But at least it's at home for him, so that helps him a little bit. But yeah, he is. I have on here. He's got a 10-18 record in prime time, but that was from start of September, and I think they've either won or lost one since then. So it's
He's lost one
yeah,
since then.
not the best spot for him. Yeah, in fact, that seems to be.
I was just surprised the line wasn't like. I thought the line, if you'd have asked me, would have been 5. So
Yeah.
when I saw 2.5, I was like, this doesn't go with my
Yeah.
numbers. I think you have to take it on the values like that with the field goal. But yeah, I'm not going to stay up and watch it. I'm afraid I'll watch the highlights the next morning on this one.
Yeah, the game in 40 might be down at 13 minutes for this one. Because I don't think the Patriots are going to have a whole lot of offense, as you said. Mac Jones is terrible. He was. I was going to say he was the better QB in their game at the weekend, but I'm not even sure that's true, to be honest. He's really
No.
looked dismal this year, and they've killed his confidence. He was a good game manager in his rookie year, and this year he just hasn't gone on. So yeah, a couple of props for this one. I've got some TJ Hawkinson heavy ones, 5-2 for a touchdown, and over 4.5 receptions for him. He's had 9, 7, and 5 receptions in the 3 games he's played for the Vikings. and it was plus money for over 4.5 receptions. So I thought that one was fairly decent. And I do like Ramondre Stevenson over 28.5 receiving yards. Although Liam told me before the podcast that under 3.5 receptions, I think it was, is
Yeah.
PFF's favourite bet. So those two
Well,
might counteract each other.
you can get 30 yards off one reception, and we can both win.
Yeah, yeah, that's the hope. And then Liam had Justin Jefferson, and Callum had a Thielen related one. So you got Justin Jefferson over 6.5 receptions. I think that was plus money. I think it was 6-5 when I checked.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And Adam Thielen over 44.5 is one that Callum mentioned to me.
Yeah, I just think they are going to key in on Jefferson, obviously, and I think Thielen is someone who can create separation pretty well. I know he's more of a red zone threat at times now, so maybe even you want to look at the price on him for a touchdown, though Hawkinson's probably the better value. Yeah, I do think 45 yards is perfectly reasonable for a player of Adam Thielen's quality, especially when they're going to be focused in on Jefferson.
Yeah, I was going to add as well.
Yeah,
I've requested a sack bet as well. So just a Judon 1 sack and a Judon 2 sacks. So they haven't come back yet. They don't normally do it till the day. So, but I just think you're right. With Darasaur out the left tackle and Kirk being the way he is, even though I like him, he holds the ball too long when he's get hit once. So if he gets touched once, then Judon / whoever's going to get a sack. And I think Judon's so good that I'll try and find 1 or 2 sack bet if I can do it.
Yeah, I'd definitely be going for that. Do you know, by the way, if half sacks count on those?
You'd have to have 2 half sacks. and then
Is it
and then it would
literally there have to be one full?
No, you can count.
You can, yeah.
You can count halves because I've won it on Chris Jones before getting the 2 half sacks because the box stores will still say 1 at the total.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
2 halves is fine. If you get 1 half, then you're fuming because it's the worst day.
yeah. TJ Watt definitely didn't win at the weekend. Then he only had half a sack against the Bengals, who put up a pretty decent offensive line performance. We all agreed before the pod that we like the Sky Bet treble. Jamal Williams, Stephon Diggs, and Tony Pollard all to score at 9-1. They also have Bills, Cowboys, Vikings, all 20+ points. That was 6-4 over at Sky Bet. Thought that one was fairly generous. And then Liam mentioned Diggs and Jefferson, 80+ receiving yards each at 11-8. I assume Sky Bet as well.
Yeah, Sky Bet as well. Yeah, and I've bet all those 3. So good. Tomorrow could be disastrous. We'll see.
Points. And yeah, obviously I mentioned Pollard and Jamal Williams 2 each is 50-1. I also don't mind, weirdly enough, the 125-1 right at the bottom of the enhanced touchdown scorers that they had in there was DeAndre Swift, Josh Allen, CeeDee Lamb, TJ Hawkinson, and Damian Harris all to score 125-1. I didn't think that was terrible.
Worth a quid.
So yeah, that is Thursday night looked at. We will move on to the Sunday games, and I'll go straight to Callum for his best bet.
Yeah, I like the Baltimore Ravens this week. It's a weird week. There isn't really much that I like on either side with you because some of these games are a bit strange. Jaguars started the season really, really well and have faded. The Ravens started the season pretty well despite losing some high-profile games and have kind of faded themselves, though I put a lot of that down to injuries. They obviously beat the Panthers last week and you never really thought they were going to lose, but it wasn't exactly a comprehensive victory. A lot more from Lamar, and I think probably that's to do with him not necessarily having enough around him. We've kind of mentioned repeatedly how few talented wide receivers he's had while he's been there in his whole career. But I do think that Demarcus Robinson has started to step up. Looks like someone who can help, as Liam will know him well from his time in Kansas. But yeah, I just think the Ravens should win this game probably by a touchdown. So I'm quite happy to take -4.
Yeah, I think I talked about it today on a different pod, but I think they were surprisingly bad last week, actually, which I think helps you for this bet because I think the line would have been more like 7, to be honest. If they'd have come out and smashed the Panthers by 20 points, I think this is -7. So yeah, I'm with Callum. I think -4 is a good bet. I probably won't go anywhere near the total. I would always say lean over because I like how the Jags offense plays, but when you get that one Trevor Lawrence game where he throws 2 picks, then the under's going to be the one to go. So I'm just going to stay away from the total. I like the Ravens, and I'll probably look at some Kenyon Drake sort of rush yards, maybe Lamar Jackson rush yards together, something like that. But yeah, I think -4 is a good shout for the Ravens.
Although while you're talking, Liam, I have
Yeah.
just received a notification that says Lamar Jackson was not present during the media portion of Wednesday practice. So that's great. So if Lamar doesn't play, then I think I reserve the right to put an asterisk on this one.
Same.
But
By the way, isn't he always ill? Have you anyone
yeah, I
noticed
mean,
this
he's
thing
got
about him?
maybe the weakest immune system I've ever seen. Who knows? Anyway, I hope that he's able to play, and I think the Ravens will be good if so.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll make it through. As you say, both of these have kind of fallen off a cliff a little bit. The Jaguars have been mildly entertaining, and obviously when they get it going, it's great. Travis Etienne is very, very good. I know we've mentioned before his smaller stature, but he seems to be dealing with it all, and he's doing well with it. Obviously, Christian Kirk has got a decent connection with Trevor Lawrence, but it's not reliable, and the Ravens' defense has been very good recently. Um, yeah, it's hard to take anything other than Ravens -4 on this one. So that is what I would go with. Um, Annoyingly, I am not watching the World Cup like everyone else seems to be at the moment. um, but as we've been saying with Thanksgiving games, if the underdog scores first, then should make for entertaining games. So, well, you guys will be able to see what goes on in that game. Right, on to my best bet, and it's one I'm not overly confident with, but I am, if that makes sense. The Bengals offense has been hitting its stride recently. I've gone with the Bengals -1.5 at the Titans. Totals 42.5 there. Yeah, they've been hitting their stride even without Jamar Chase. They've overcome that loss to the Browns, the team that they always lose against. Is something that it wasn't really that much of a shock to me how bad they were in that game. But this week against the Steelers, they did very well against that pass rush. They contained it well, and Samaje Perine stepped up with 3 receiving touchdowns randomly. Joe Mixon, I believe, will probably get through concussion protocol. I think it was more of a precautionary concussion. I didn't actually see it. It wasn't on Game in 40, which I watched in the morning. But I can only assume it was a dirty cheap shot by the Steelers. But I'm sure he will. I'm sure he'll get through it. But yeah, the offense has been clicking, and the Titans can't keep up if they're facing a good offense. Also, the Bengals got DJ Reader back last week. He is their main run stopper, so he should do a decent job against Derrick Henry. And then the Titans don't have a whole lot after that. Obviously, actually, I might be a bit derogatory to them. They did very well against the Packers. Tannehill went over 300 yards. Nick Westbrook-Akine with 2 touchdowns and 100 and something. I think someone's on delay watching these.
Yeah, Callum's on delay in America watching this game. I can see his face.
Just a shocked face from Callum. Yeah, so basically the Titans, I know they do better than I always expect every single week. They're very well coached. They definitely have the best coach in this game, but I just don't think they're going to keep up with the Bengals. Liam, have your attention for a sec?
Well, first of all, we had the typical worst day in the weekend where P. Ryan decides to kill everyone's fantasy teams and just get loads of points, and no one's playing him, and it's just the worst waste ever. But that was my mini Bengals rant. But yeah, so earlier I predicted the Titans, but this is a close game for me. I see these two teams as similar levels. I think one's defense is elite, and the other one's offense can be elite, and I just think they're very similar. So yeah, I'm not going to bemoan anyone for picking the Bengals. Burrow's playing really well at the moment. The offensive line's definitely improved. He stopped throwing turnover-worthy plays as well and interceptions now. He's really clean in terms of his throws as well. So everyone always talks about the sacks, which I think some are on him, some are on the line, but he's actually stopped throwing the bad passes as well now. So I do think that makes a difference. But yeah, I would lean Titans, but I'm not going to put anyone off against the Bengals. The total as well, I actually would go over because I think if Treylon Burks is playing well again and Derrick Henry has a good start like he often does in these big games, I think we could see an over. So my best bet would probably be the over 42.5. But yeah, I'm not against either side. I think this is probably going to be the best game of the weekend.
Yeah, I really like the over in this for sure. I think Chase coming back really. I'm a big fan of both of these teams, to be completely honest. I mean, AFC rivals and all that, but I think they're both really fun to watch for very different reasons. I mean, I said this before: the Titans, you're basically tuning in just to watch Derrick Henry. Whereas the Bengals, you kind of tuning in to watch that offense with all of its weapons. Obviously, Chase difference. I think if Chase was not coming back, I think there's a decent chance the Titans might be favored in this one. I will say I'm very wary of Mike Vrabel being offended that he's a home underdog, and therefore maybe the Titans just come out and absolutely murder them. That could happen. But generally speaking, I do think that I do think this game will have points, and I do fancy the Bengals to win overall.
It's a playoff revenge game as well for the Titans.
Yep, it is. It is.
Yeah, so Vrabel is 9-4 against the spread as a home underdog in his time as the Titans head coach. Something I was just checking out while we were doing that. Yeah, obviously massive revenge game from last season where Burrow took obviously quite a few sacks. The 2 turnovers Burrow threw against the Steelers, neither of them were classed as turnover-worthy plays, which again highlights where the Bengals have been going. And I think Burrow, if you remove the Steelers game, I think he's thrown like 30-1 or something like that, 30 touchdowns to 1 interception. It's absurd that you get rid of those 2 kind of freakish games, and he's been incredible. So yeah, we'll see what happens with it. I am, as I say, I'm a pessimist anyway, so I find it difficult to be confident in the Bengals, but I do think they've got enough on paper here. And as was mentioned, Burrow has said that Chase will play this week. Just got to hope he doesn't aggravate that hip injury. So on to the rest of the games. We'll try and fly through these because we've had half hour already. Falcons plus 4.5 at the Commanders with a total of 41. Not the best game on paper here. The Commanders have been a lot better with Taylor Heineke under centre. They've managed to get a few wins under their belt, whereas the Falcons seem to have gone the other way. They seem to be throwing away games more than ever now. And I was going to say Kyle Pitts is a big loss for them, but he's really not. They don't know how to use him, and they can't get it going. It looks like Mariota will keep his position in the centre. If they got rid of him and went with Desmond Ridder, it might be a little bit more interesting. But I'd have to lean to the home side here and go for Commanders minus 4.5.
Yeah, if Ridder was playing, I might go best bet Falcons. I just think Mariota is terrible. They have to. I don't think they're going to do it, but they just have to take him out. But I've been saying that since week 7. It felt like so. I don't think we're ever going to see the change. But yeah, if I had to go lean spread, I'd go Commanders, but it's a bit higher than I'd probably like. I think the over 41 is a really good bet. Both these two teams are always involved in crazy games, so I think over 41 is probably a good shout for this one.
Yeah, totally agree. I think over is the play generally. It doesn't make any sense with this game because if the Falcons win, they'll be 500 and they don't deserve to be a 6-win team. Commanders win, they'll be 2 games above 500, which is more baffling because they're 6-5 right now, which just doesn't make sense. So, yeah, I kind of wish both teams could lose because I think that's really what they deserve. But yeah, I'll take the over 41 and slightly lean towards the Commanders because I do believe in Terry McLaurin a bit more than I believe in, I guess, Drake London and whoever else the Falcons have at wide receiver.
You don't want to see a Heineke at Dallas playoff game then in January?
I mean, I don't mind, but like, I don't hate Heineke. I just don't think he's actually very good. And just generally speaking, I just think the Commanders as an organization, I know they're trying to get better, but they've been in for a long time. And yeah, just I can't really believe in either of these two teams.
Yeah, I think that's a fairly fair assessment of those two teams. Next game up is the Bears, plus 4.5 at the Jets. The Jets have announced today that Zach Wilson is done, finally, and I believe he's not even the backup, so they're going to be starting Mike White with Joe Flacco backing him up. I mean, you've got to think that our offense is going to be better with either of those two. Obviously, Flacco started the season well, and Mike White showed last year that he can have the odd game or two where he's good, and he's going up against a Bears defense, which has been pretty much the worst in the league since they traded away Robert Quinn and Roquan Smith. The Bears' offense has been fantastic. I think Justin Fields is going to play. He dislocated his non-throwing shoulder on Sunday and finished off the game. It's going to hurt like hell, but it looks like he'll be fine to play in this one. So I guess I'm going for the over. The Jets defense is very, very good, and I think Fields will still run the ball. So yeah, I guess I'm going over 39.5. I don't really have any reason to not go for that one, frankly.
I think the Bears have scored like 20 points in nearly all of their last 5 games, I think. So you just need big Mike White to score 21 and you can get your at least get your over there. But yeah, I don't mind the over, to be honest. I was a Zach Wilson fan in college in the draft. process as well. Wrote a few write-ups about him. So disappointed that he is this bad, because it is pretty bad. I will add, though, that I think Mike White is also terrible. So I'm not quite sure how much this is going to do. I think if this was Flacco, I'd be a bit more Jets kind of positive, just because I think he can at least manage the game well. As I think still Mike White will throw some potential turnovers. So yeah, I'd be leaning Bears. I don't like the Fields injury. I think it's probably going to limit his run total. So I might not bet the over on his rush for the first time in 4 or 5 weeks. But I think if he plays, they can do enough on offense to win. So I would lean Bears plus 4.5 and just think it's a close game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm actually surprised the Bears are not favored in this game. I actually think they've been playing quite well. The Jets are a fraudulent 6-4, I think. They're 6-4, right? I think, yeah. They don't do games above 500 either. Mike White is interesting. He is electric in a way that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But I can't trust that Jets offense at all. I really can't. And I don't really trust the Bears, but Fields has been playing well. And like you said, running all over the place. Over. It's just so low. You don't really need a whole lot for that to come in. Not a game I'm very interested in at all. But yeah, I would probably take the Bears money line as one of my upsets for the week.
Weirdly, Jets have to win this game to stay in the playoff hunt, by the way, which is a crazy thing to say, but this is one of their only winnable games left. So,
yeah, they did have a very tough schedule at the start of the season. I was talking to someone on Twitter, and I looked at it and thought, okay, Jets teams got better, and looked at it, I thought 5 wins was maximum for them. So they've exceeded my expectations, mainly due to the defense. But yeah, I don't class them as in the playoff hunt, but obviously numerically they are. So fair play to them. Yeah, talking of games that no one cares about, Broncos minus 2.5 at Panthers, a total of 36, which which is yeah, I don't think I'll be watching much of this one. I guess I've got to lean to the Broncos minus 2.5, but they just can't finish drives. There's a meme been going around all week this week that Russell Wilson's on target to finish with fewer touchdowns than he has toilets in his new home. He has 12 bathrooms apparently in his house, and he's on 7 passing touchdowns this year, which is just it's remarkable in a terrible way. And of course, they got the good old stat: if they'd scored 19 points in a game, they'd be 9-1 this year. It's just terrible to watch, but their defense is elite, and the Panthers' offense is most definitely not elite. Their defense isn't very good either. So, as I say, I guess I've got to lean to Broncos minus 2.5, but they've let us down for the entire year. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Deontay Foreman going off for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns and then winning 14-10 or something ridiculous. So yeah, that's probably too much that I've said about this game.
yeah, I just sum it up with I just can't bet on Russell Wilson. I just can't do it. It's just ridiculous. So yeah, I'm going to go Panthers plus 2.5. I don't know why, but I would probably just lean that way. I think the Broncos are that bad. The total you probably should go over, but do you trust these two teams to go over on any total? I just don't think you can. So yeah, I'd probably lean Panthers just because I think Russell Wilson's awful. Chase Edmonds is on IR and they've released Melvin Gordon, so the running back position's now worse as well. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with their offense. And the Panthers have upgraded at quarterback, which I'll let Callum talk about in a minute, with Sam Darnold playing over Baker Mayfield.
Well, I was going to say that's the main headline of this story, and we haven't even got there yet. Forget Russell Wilson. This is the Sam Darnold revenge game. Like, is he the guy? No, but like maybe. I wonder. Yeah, I was going to ask next season, ignoring the rest of this season, who do you think starts a game first, Baker or Zach Wilson, in the 2023 NFL season? Exactly.
Zach Wilson, because Jimmy G is going to get injured in like week 6 for the Jets or something.
Jimmy G to the Jets would be the most wonderfully pointless move. That would be fantastic. Yeah, I think you have to go Broncos here. Do I really trust or really even care about Sam Darnold's existence? I don't think so. I'm almost. I think I said it the other week that, like, you know, if there was last week when there was supposed to be the Thunder Snow game, I said I would take the over no matter what as a personal challenge. I'm almost tempted to take the under in this no matter what, even if it goes down to like 32, just as a personal challenge, because these two offenses are so bad that I honestly feel you could just put the bet in and not think about it and see it at the end, and it was 13-3, and you're like, great, easiest win ever. Can't feel good about either of them. I will say that apparently, I was looking at some fantasy stats earlier. DJ Moore has had his best production under Sam Darnold out of any of the kind of Panthers rotating carousel of quarterbacks that they've had over the last year and a half. So if you are looking for props, maybe a little DJ Moore over, because I think his line will probably be a little bit lower than it perhaps should be. So I could maybe see some value, but that's probably about it as far as this game goes.
23-10 it is for under 29.5 points in this one. So if you wanted to extend your
Don't hate that.
riskiness, then that was the 2-1 that you could find. Yeah, it's yeah. I suppose narratively there's a little bit of fun in this one, but yeah, football wise probably not. Texans plus 13 at Miami Dolphins with a total of 47 is the next one on the slate. The Texans are terrible. There's not a whole lot more to say about them. They have swapped QB this week to Kyle Allen, which, much like the game before, I don't think it really matters that much whether it was Kyle Allen or Davis Mills at quarterback. I guess they're at least trying to get a spark there. Obviously, Brandon Cooks is the only real person to talk about on their offense other than Damian Pierce on the ground. But yeah, they'll be lucky to score 14 points in this one. So I guess I'd have to lean with the Dolphins minus 13. But then again, the Dolphins won't need to put up many points. So will they bother trying when they have a big game on deck next week against the 49ers? Yeah, Tua has been great. I didn't think I'd say that this year. Obviously, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle have been fantastic. The run game's now got going with Jeff Wilson and Mostert, a good 1-2 punch. So there's not a lot to dislike about the Dolphins, to be honest. So yeah, I wouldn't be taking the minus 13, but that's the way I'd definitely be leaning, and probably under on the total just because I don't think the Texans will score much.
Yeah, I can't bet on this game in real life because I agree with you about the 49ers game. I think it's going to be an important game, so is it a bit of a look ahead spot? I'll probably bet the under 47, like you said. I just think Texans, we don't know what it's going to be like. If they run the ball well and get a little bit of luck in the red zone and that QB gives them a spark, then they could score enough points for us to hit the over. But I think more times than not, that QB is going to hit the under in games he plays. So I would lean the under, and yeah, normally I would take the big spread, just 13 points, but it would just be a stay away for me, I think, to be honest.
Keep saying nice things about the Dolphins, guys. You're making my day. It's beautiful. Yeah, I would take the minus 13 because I believe in this passing game, and we seem pretty committed to throwing the ball no matter what. But also the Texans have the 32nd ranked rush defense, I believe. So yeah, Wilson and Mostert could side them up anyway. Might be one of those weird games where if you're a fantasy owner, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle might actually underperform unless they hit a big play, just because we don't need to throw the ball down the field like we have done in other games. So just be wary of Tyreek and Waddle overs because that could be a risky play. But yeah, I think the Dolphins win this game easy. The Texans are terrible. And 13 points, weirdly, doesn't feel excessive to me.
Nice. Yeah, as we've said, stay away. So yeah, Jeff Wilson all over him this week by the look of it. Bucks minus 3.5 at the Browns. It is the Cleveland Browns' last game before Deshaun Watson returns next week against his former team. The Bucks have hit a little bit of form. They seem to be getting themselves together and replacing, well, I say replacing, giving Rashad White more of the ball than Lenny Fournette definitely worked last week when they played in Germany. It wasn't last week. They've had their
yeah 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely looked like it improved their offense, and then it gives Chris Godwin a bit of chance to rest up. Mike Evans obviously is one of the best in the league, so yeah, I have to take the Bucks minus 3.5 on this one. It was fairly close to being my best bet. It's just that other side of the hook. The Browns, I do not think are a very good team with Brissett. Obviously, Donovan Peoples-Jones. There was some crazy stat that he's had, I think, more high receptions than any other player in recent weeks, or more solid yardage than any other player in the league in recent weeks. But they just don't seem to do much with it. Nick Chubb, I said earlier in the year, was the best running back in the league. He seems to have fallen off a bit, and while the Bucks defense is still not really getting it together, they aren't awful. So yeah, I'm going Bucks minus 3.5. That was a long way to say something very simple.
Yeah, I'm the same. Bucks minus 3.5. I think the Browns are terrible. I thought they could do well against the Bills. and then you had that like sequence of, I think when I watched it was Brissett threw 2 passes that nearly hit people's feet. They were that low. Next drive, they had a QB sneak on 3rd and 1. Then they had a QB sneak on 4th and 1. Obviously, they did not get either QB sneak. Then they left Stephon Diggs wide open in the end zone 2 plays after he was like crying to his head coach that he was never getting the ball. And they left him wide open. I just think this team's a mess, to be honest. I think Stefanski can coach a good game on offense, but I think his time might be running out. I think next season might be his last year. And I hate them for trading for Watson. So this is getting to the point in the podcast now where, because Watson's playing soon, I can just slate the Browns every single week. So that's probably what you're going to hear. So, I'll go Bucks. I don't know if I would touch the total, to be honest. It depends what sort of offense the Bucks have on the day. But, I'll probably go for some Amari Cooper overs and then do some Bucks alternative lines because I think they could win this by a touchdown.
Hard to disagree with that at all. This was probably my second favorite of the week. The Bucks look like they've figured it out, kind of, and the Browns look like they've regressed completely, just in time for he who shall not be named to return. So, I would definitely go with the Bucks here. Brady looks like he's again found his magic juice and the way to get back into the playoffs somehow, despite the NFC South being so bad that they shouldn't have a playoff spot for that division.
Just get rid of all the South playoff spots, AFC and NFC, and we'll just carry on with the rest of the league. So Chargers -4.5 at Cardinals, 47.5 the total there. I'm going to have to lean the Chargers, despite the fact that they constantly disappoint. And I've got a question for you both at the end of the podcast. I'll save it for that on the Chargers. Mike Williams went out of last week's game. I've not seen how serious that was. I think he's questionable, so I think there's a chance he goes. Keenan Allen somehow made it through the game, which is an achievement for him. And Austin Eckler obviously scored again because he tends to do that against the Chiefs. Annoyingly, just one. But he found the end zone. The Cardinals were dismal in Mexico City, and then they are playing straight away. I say I've got to lean the Chargers here. I think the Cardinals are done. They are not a good team. I would probably lean over on the total, although 47.5 relies on the Cardinals scoring probably 15, 20 points, which is not exactly a guarantee. So, that's about it for me on that one.
Yeah, I think Rondell Moore went off injured in that game as well, didn't he? And obviously, Marquise Brown wasn't back yet, but hopefully for them, should be back this week. I'll probably do some sort of Hopkins bets because I just think he's going to get the ball a lot. But I'm with you. Chargers -4.5. I'll probably take him up to 7, to be honest. I thought they were quite good against us, obviously, watching the whole game. I love Justin Herbert, so he's just far superior quarterback, and I just think that the team are in trouble. Obviously, they fired their offensive line coach after he groped a woman in a bar before the game. It's just like Cardinals. Obviously, they're not Washington. They're not the Browns. They're not that level of lack of morality, but they just seem like really badly organized, and everything seems to go wrong. So I would go Chargers. I'd lean the over as well, probably, but it's not one that I'll actually bet. But I just think the Cardinal season could be done, and I'll pass over to someone who will disagree with us.
Yeah, I'm running out of excuses at a rapid rate.
I saw they were on your fraud watch, actually, by the way.
Well, they were in honorable mentions for being the most injured team all season, which I do agree with. I do think they have been incredibly unlucky, and we still haven't actually seen the entire card together. Update right this second. Kyler Murray is trending in the right direction to start on Sunday. So I will definitely take the over if Kyler plays. It's hard to disagree with you on the Chargers being the bet here. The Cardinals do seem dead. I do think that if the Cardinals had Kyler Murray on Monday, that game would have been significantly closer. No disrespect to Colt McCoy, but Kyler is still a supreme talent and will be a success in this league, no matter how much Liam wishes against him. But
I don't mind Kyler. It's Cliff I hate. It's Cliff that I hate.
I mean, this is. I think we're past Saloon, but if the Cardinals want to have any hope whatsoever, they have to win this game. And sometimes they show up when it gets down to that stage. So, we'll see. I definitely like the over. It'll be an interesting game one way or another. I think there's a lot of weapons and a lot of fun that could be had in this game. But I just wish there was a time when, Marquise Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, James Conner, Kyler Murray, Zach Ertz were all on the field at the same time. That has not happened at all.
No.
Just has not happened. And for that reason, I think Cliff Kingsbury will survive. And for that reason, I feel sorry for the Cardinals, even though nobody else does. Yeah.
I think the Chargers have to win this game. By the way, we'll see what the question is later. But to get in the playoffs, they can't lose this game. I don't think.
You think?
I don't think they can lose this game. No, personally.
I did have. I've got 538 open here actually. Give me a sec. I can give you the expected percentages from then. The Chargers are 31% to make the playoffs. So yeah, a loss here is going to be quite painful for them if it did happen.
Someone suggested them to miss the playoffs in a half-season podcast as well. I don't know who that
Yeah.
was, but smart man, whoever that was.
Probably Jack. I'd imagine he's not here though.
They'll
so-
make the playoff. They'll make the playoffs now as well. I've said that, unfortunately.
Probably. Yeah, I kind of agree with Callum here. If all those players were healthy, they'd at least be entertaining to watch, whereas they're not even that at the moment. So it is a bit rough on them, but yeah,
Thanks,
they've
Adam.
not been great this year. The Raiders are plus 3.5 at the Seahawks with a total of 47.5. I mean, it seems difficult to take the Raiders here, personally. I think minus 3.5 for the Seahawks at home with a fully healthy team coming off of their bye week after Germany is pretty tempting. The Raiders obviously without Darren Waller, without Hunter Renfro again. Both of them were still on IR after last week, so it's hard to see where the stuff's coming from for them. Obviously Devontae Adams has been putting up huge yards and scored a few touchdowns last week in their win against the Broncos. They've won 4 games this year. 2 of them are against the Broncos, so it's it's tough to see where the Raiders are coming from. And I think Seahawks minus 3.5 is the bet for me in this one. Obviously, I'd rather it was the 3, but don't mind taking the hook. I think Gino was obviously on for comeback player of the year. Kenneth Walker is on for rookie of the year. So they've got talent on the ground and through the air. So yeah, Seahawks minus 3.5 for me.
Seahawks are going for the award sweep with the rookie, comeback player, and the coach of the year as well. I think they're all in the top 2 or 3 for the odds for those. But yeah, I think if this was 2.5 or 3, similar to the Bucks game, actually, that would be my best bet. But I just didn't fancy the hook with it. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Seahawks are a better team. Raiders are just struggling as they've done for a while now. Obviously, Carr come out and spoke about a lot of things. I thought it was quite interesting to watch, actually. I felt quite sorry for him, but you could tell that he was definitely saying that there's players in the team that just don't care. I just feel like, even though they had a good win last week, I think that'll come back to in the 4 this week. And I think I'll probably take some Devontae Adams overs because it still surprised me. Second in the league for touchdown passes. Touchdown catches behind Travis Kelce. And when you think about their Raiders season, you don't think their offense has generated someone who scored that many touchdowns, but he's still getting it done. So I'll probably go some Adams overs and bet on the Seahawks. I'll leave the total alone because you never know what Pete Carroll's going to do on offense or defense. But yeah, I just think the Raiders are a little bit dead. And yeah, Carr probably on his way out, unfortunately, for him this offseason.
Yeah, the Raiders are dead, and I think it's probably time for Derek Carr to move on. But Devontae Adams continues to do exactly what you said he was, just be fantastic. And it's hard to look past him in this Raiders offense because he pretty much is the offense. You get the occasional Josh Jacobs game, but it really is Devontae Adams. And especially with Darren Waller on IR, they have suffered as well, I'll say. The Raiders have had some bad luck this year, though I am glad that my preseason take that they would not be relevant has been correct. Yeah, Seahawks off a bye for me. I just think, I think the bye week is often underestimated in terms of just how important it can be. And for a team like the Seahawks who like to run the ball, getting their guys rested and healthy and fresh and having had, 2 weeks to dissect a pretty poor Raiders team anyway. Jeff Saturday can beat them on 4 days prep. I think that Pete Carroll can beat them on 2 weeks prep.
Yeah, I think that's a
fair.
very fair assessment. One to Rams plus 14.5 at the Chiefs, total of 44. That's not been the best Super Bowl defense for the Rams this season, and we don't really know who the quarterback is for this one. Stafford is a concussion protocol again, and this one looked like it probably was a pretty serious concussion. And John Wolford was injured as well. Bryson Perkins stepped in at the weekend, and he did all right for essentially a third choice backup quarterback. But the Rams without Cooper Kupp, obviously they released Darrell Henderson this week, so they're obviously not happy with him and the run game. He seemed happy with it. So he's posted on Twitter with thumbs up and things like that. So I don't think he's too fussed. So yeah, I guess Cam Akers is the lead back there, and it doesn't really matter. They've been pretty awful this year. The Chiefs obviously had a few injuries at the weekend, but again, they've got Patrick Mahomes. He seems to be able to do it with anyone as long as Travis Kelsey's not the one getting injured, and Kelsey, touch wood, doesn't get injured. Kadarius Tony, I don't know about him. I'll let Liam deal with all this kind of stuff. He was injured. Juju has had who missed out with concussion this week. Again, I'll leave it to Liam. Liam, on to you for injury updates for us.
Injury corner. I think that Tony won't play, would be my guess. But I'm more confident that Juju might play. Feels like he's going to be due back in practice, they hope, this week. Whether they risk him for this game, I'm not sure, because it doesn't mean as much. Because I think it's the Bengals, isn't it, next week? So is that right? The
Yeah,
Chiefs Bengals next week?
yeah,
Yeah, so that game means a lot more.
it
So
definitely is.
yeah, so they might not risk him, to be honest, but he said that he's going to practice. In terms of other injuries, CH also went on IR today, which is great news because Pacheco can now get more touches. I feel harsh saying that, but I just think CH is awful, whereas Pacheco is a much better running back. So yeah, I think the offense will be fine. It'll be good. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes in America is down to, I think it's minus 150 now to be MVP, and you can get him at 10-1 at the start of the season. So yeah, I think that Chiefs will win the game. I don't know what our record is, but as a fan, I can imagine it's terrible in big spread games. So I'm not sure I would touch the Chiefs with this level of a spread, but yeah, the Chiefs should win the game. So if you can tease them down, put them in accumulators to add some value to stuff, I think that's fair enough. Yeah, it's a lot of points. We should win by that many, especially if it's Hopkins, who it looks like it's going to play for the Rams. And obviously the Rams are struggling to defend the run, and Pacheco had a really good game last week. So yeah, I think we'll be fine, but I just probably will stay away from it and try and enjoy it as a fan, and hopefully we win by 3 touchdowns and I can celebrate with my friend who's a Rams fan.
14.5 is a lot, but this is the
It's a
Chiefs. And the Rams look dead. They've got nothing about them right now. If Perkins starts, I mean, Chiefs defense isn't bad. I mean, they're not bad at all. Like I find it hard to take anything in this aside from the over and the Chiefs minus 14.5, because the Chiefs score 45 on their own, and then you don't have any stress about it. My only concern would be don't take Patrick Mahomes passing yards overs, because he could be out of the game after 3 quarters. Though again, he could also have 400 passing yards in 3 quarters because he's that unbelievably good. So yeah, Chiefs all the way for me. The Rams absolutely dead. Yeah, strange times to see a Super Bowl champion that devoid of any hope.
Yeah. The Chiefs with Mahomes. So from November the 11th, 2018, which I believe was Mahomes' time, they've been home favourites of 14 points 4 times. They're 2-2 against the spread, and the unders hit in every single one of them. The games have had 37, 44, 38, and 40 points in them. So yeah, I
He's
guess.
He's also like undefeated in November and December for like 3 seasons now. So it's one of them where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we might not cover, but they're going to win the game. So yeah, it might be a tease opportunity. And I'll add as well that Rams offensive line's terrible. So Chris Jones 2+ sack bets, I think are, if you can request them on Sky, are worth it, just because yeah, they are one of the worst offensive lines. And even if the offense takes a foot off the gas, Spags, our defensive coordinator, will just keep blitzing the whole game. So regardless of the score. So I think our offense might deliberately slow down, but the defense will just be crazy. So yeah, I might go for some Chris Jones props if I can find them.
Under 44 would be the sensible one there for me, I think. Saints plus 9.5 at the 49ers. I think we've all been quite high on the 49ers in recent weeks since they traded for Christian McCaffrey. I know that I definitely am. I think they are possibly the NFC favourites now in my mind, despite obviously not showing that on paper yet. They won comfortably on Monday night against the Cardinals, and they have some more. Well, they've got flexible pieces. They've got adaptable pieces in the backfield there with Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, Deebo Samuel doing his stuff. Elijah Mitchell has returned and is racking up very high yard per carry. Brandon Ayuk scored a couple. George Kittle scored a couple. It's all ticking along nicely there, and we know that Jimmy G can get them to big games. Whether he can do it in at the end of the season, I don't know. We know that Andy Dalton can't do it for the Saints, but they keep him in. And Jameis was saying, I can't remember whether we mentioned it last week or whether I heard it somewhere else. Jameis was saying that he's not been fully healthy or able to get through a full week of practice all season, which would probably explain why Dalton's keeping the job. Chris Olave is arguably could be the favourite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's had an incredible year, but the Saints don't have enough to keep up with the 49ers, who have a very solid defense. So I would be leaning to the 49ers -9.5, to be honest. Not one again, not one I'll take. I think is a little too high. But if I've done all right in the early games, I might have a little nibble on it. The total is 43 in this game.
Yeah, I would lean 49ers as well. The only issue you're going to have is if you have one of them Jimmy G games where he has a couple of interceptions and it's just a struggle for them to score enough points. But yeah, they're the favourite in the NFC for me. They're the best team, most talented team, even over the Eagles. So yeah, I would go that. I would probably stay away from the total. And you're right, Jameis did say that. And then this week he also said he's been benched not because of health. And he looked really angry as well when he was talking about that. So I don't quite know what's going on with Jameis. Feels like that relationship's a bit doomed. And then it feels like similar to the Michael Thomas situation where maybe they just can't deal with their best players. And I heard a good story this week that, the week they won 24-0 against the Raiders, I heard that Sean Payton actually went in and did a team talk 2 days before the game. And that was like the only game they'd won in 6 weeks was the game that Sean Payton went and visited the team. And then Dennis Allen comes back in and then they lose most of their other games. So I don't know what that tells us. But yeah, in this game, I would take 49ers.
Oh, God, if it's a 49ers Vikings NFC Championship game, my credibility is in the gutter. Not that I have any, but like 49ers Vikings NFC Championship is my absolute worst nightmare. I'm going to lead to the Saints here. The 49ers have done a bunch of traveling. They're in Mexico on Monday night. Played a tough game there, toughish. Not really that tough. Anyway, I think the Saints could keep this close. Olave looks really good. I think you can. I refuse to believe the 49ers are a 10-point bet than New Orleans Saints. I just can't. I can't see that. So yeah, give me the Saints plus 9.5, and yeah, maybe the over. Maybe the over.
Yeah, not one I'll be paying that much attention to. Sunday night football is Packers +7 at the Eagles. 46.5 is the total in that one. I'm going to say it before Liam does. It seems like one of those games where Aaron Rodgers is going to show up in prime time just to show that he's not dead and that his team is not utterly terrible. Obviously, Christian Watson has blown up in the last few weeks, 5 touchdowns in 2 games. That's more than DJ Moore has ever had in a season. I don't know why picking on DJ Moore there. It was just a stat that I noticed. Someone else posted. It's nothing really against him. More a pro Christian Watson in his rookie year thing. So we'll see how he does. Obviously, Eagles' defense is pretty well up there. Their pass rush is good, and the secondary is very good for them. I don't think the Eagles can cover by 7, though. They seem to have fallen off a bit recently. AJ Brown, obviously, has been dealing with injuries. Dallas Goedert's out again I think went on AIR, so he's definitely out for this one. So I guess I'd be leaning to Packers +7, despite the fact that I don't have any faith in them at all. And probably under on the total. I think the Eagles will win. I think the Eagles, I mean, ideally for me, 49ers for Eagles in the championship game would be ideal, but we'll see how that happens later in the season. So yeah, I guess I would lean to the Packers +1, +7 even. But again, it's not one I'll be paying much attention to.
Yeah, this was nearly a best bet, but then I remember when I lost my last Packers best bet and had to pray to the gambling gods to forgive me for betting on Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, I would go +7. On our group chats, we spoke about will they go undefeated, and most of us said no. And which games will they lose? And I said this was the game they were going to lose. So I'm just going to predict that still comes true, and I'm going to take the 7. Like you said, Watson's played really well, especially in the red zone, which has made a bit of a difference. Randall Cobb's back as well. That shouldn't make a difference, but for some reason for Aaron Rodgers, Randall Cobb does make a difference because he likes to feed the people he likes off the field rather than just throw it to the best players. Hopefully for your sake, we see an AJ Dillon touchdown. I'm starting to worry about that prop, if that's ever going to come in. But yeah, like you said, the Eagles has been poor. The offense has not been good for 2 weeks. They haven't been good in second halves for 4 weeks nearly now. My co-host on my other podcast is an Eagles fan. He's very worried about just how the offense looks. And when you lose a tight end, unless his name's probably Andrews or Kelsey, your offense shouldn't look as bad as it did last week. So yeah, I'll go Packers. I hope it's a fun game. Probably stay away from the total because on paper both teams have got talented defenders. I just lean away from the total, but I think +7's a good bet for the Packers.
Yeah, I like the Packers with the points as well. It's hard to go against a +7 with Aaron Rodgers in prime time. I know they kind of got handled by the Titans last week, but again, then that just pisses him off more, and he tries to come out. I mean, really, at the end of the day, it does look like he is a shadow of his former self, which doesn't make sense considering it was less than 8 months ago that he was MVP for whatever reason. But Christian Watson's done really well for my fantasy teams. Good lad, and I think the Packers can keep it close. Though I do think the Eagles probably win, and the Rodgers Super Bowl dream retirement tour is pretty dead. It feels like.
Yeah, we can hope. Steelers +2.5 on Monday night. This is a game that at the Colts. Sorry, total of 39. The league don't flex out Monday nights, so they managed to get rid of the Steelers last week, which ironically turned into a really entertaining game at 37-30. But they got rid of them out of prime time last week. They can't do it this week, so it's a Monday night game that I don't think many of us will be watching. I mean, I've got to lean to Colts -2.5. That's not just my anti-Steelers bias. It's the fact that Kenny Pickett is terrible. I do not think he's a very good quarterback. He had a few glimpses. George Pickens, in fairness, I've been giving it a lot of stick this year with him, but that was more to do with the media bias towards Steelers wide receivers rather than him as a person and him on the field. He made some very good catches at the weekend, and that's what he tends to do in losing circumstances for the Steelers. And I do think they're going to lose again. I assume Matt Ryan will play. I assume that Jonathan Taylor will be fully fit, and that should be enough for them, really. So Colts -2.5 would be my lean here, but as I've said many times this week, it's not a game I'll be paying a huge amount of attention to.
Yeah, same with me. Colts is my lean, but I won't actually bet this game or watch it. I think this is a terrible game. I wish they could have flexed this out. As someone who's off work the day after, I think it'd be nice to be able to stay up and watch a Monday night game, but it won't be this game. Under. I'd probably lean under and go with the points. I just think the Colts are a little bit better than this team, just because of Kenny Pickett versus Matt Ryan, basically.
I do really quite like the Colts in this game. The Steelers have started to look a little bit better. Najee Harris looks a little bit more like Najee Harris. I'm a big fan of Pat Fryermuth, the tight end. I think with a back, he would look in that kind of top tier of tight ends potentially. But yeah, I just think the Colts have looked like a new team under Jeff Saturday. Weirdly, doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, but they really probably should have beaten the Eagles. This past weekend they had it in control and managed to let it slip, sadly. But I think the Colts will handle the Steelers quite handedly on Monday night. I do slightly like the over. 39 is quite a low total. And while there might be a lot of running, I also think there could be a few touchdowns in this one.
I was going to say we shall see, but we won't because, as I say, me and Callum are going to be watching this one. So, yeah, it's always the way when you've got a week off. It's always a terrible game. My question was going to be, I put it on Twitter earlier in the week saying that Argentina, to me, they are the Chargers of world football. But then I thought, are they the Chargers? Or are they one of the other teams that I wanted to mention? I can't even remember who the hell it was now. It was basically they are one of the most talented teams on paper, but constantly fail. And I was just wondering if you had any other kind of connections to the World Cup teams that you could compare to World Cup teams.
Pre Gareth Southgate England teams also spring to mind, especially with the best player getting injured before every tournament, with Beckham, Rooney, etc. That seems to happen to the Chargers a lot. None of our physios have punctured any players' lungs, but there's still been some. So that they kind of spring to mind a little bit. Who was it that lost 7-0 to Brazil? Someone lost 7-0 to Brazil. Who was that?
This tournament?
That was. No, that semi-final years ago. They lost like 6-1 or something.
Yeah, Brazil lost 7-1 to Germany.
Oh, yeah. So maybe Brazil, that tournament, spring to mind because they were second favourites to win it and then they lose to 7-1 to Germany. But yeah, I do like
Belgium was going to be my comparison to the Chargers, actually. So, it was Argentina or Belgium is basically the Chargers, that they look good on paper but constantly let everyone down.
Hard to disagree with that as a comparison, to be fair. Um,
I think Belgium maybe have had a little bit more success though, whereas I think you're right. Argentina, since they've had Messi in the World Cup at least, it's a lot of exits before the quarterfinals, isn't it? Which is a little bit chargery. It feels like.
Yeah, get to the promised land and then go out as soon as you possibly can. Argentina won the Copa America this year at least, so
Yeah,
that was
I was going to say
a
if they are
well,
if they are
I was gonna do it in air quotes, but
As I say, if they are Argentina, though, who's the Saudi Arabia that beat them? Is it the Texans or whoever it was last year that managed to
it's that
somehow
game
beat the
last year when
Chargers?
the when the Bills lost to the Jaguars last year. That's the Saudi
Yeah,
Arabia upset.
yeah,
that's the equivalent.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
true.
biggest favourites against probably the worst team in the league. Yeah, it's yeah, that's yeah, just popped to my mind while I was half right. After I realised you guys were watching the World Cup game, I thought I'll chuck it on as well. So I've been half watching that as well. And in fairness, Canada looked pretty good.
They do.
So right, let's close out this one then. It's hour and a bit. I am on holiday, officially on holiday, but we are on strike this week, Royal Mail. So this is what trade unions looks like. Support your postman. We're not doing it just to pee you off. We're doing it because the changes in terms and conditions are going to destroy the job. It's nothing about money either. Before everyone says about that, it's all about change of start times and ridiculous guff like that from the big men. And frankly, if one of the biggest unions in the country can't do anything to help their workers, then everyone else is screwed as well. So you need Royal Mail to do well, and you need the union to do well in this one. So I will leave it on that. Support your postie. See you all later.